we're back. Welcome to Aggressively Healthy. So, we usually don't do it, but a little disclaimer that we should always say, like, no advice we give here is catered to any individual we're speaking to. So there's no claim of medical advice directly to the consumer. It's more advice in general, and the same thing with training, because exercise, nutrition, and medicine are kind of all the same in terms of prescription.
Yeah, even the questions that we get, like, we try to speak in generalities because it's so context driven.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why we set up our business where we're as thorough as possible.
Yes.
We have keen evaluation.
Yes.
We do diagnostics. It's like, even if you just want fat loss, like, we can give you the general overview, but like, why don't you just come in and we can this is our job, is to figure it out.
Cater it out. And I had an interesting comment. So a guy I know well, who I used to play lacrosse with all the time in men's league, posted a comment on one of our videos, on a video where we were talking about training and what we're training for and working out. And he said, like, it'd be nice to see you using this athletic skill on the lacrosse field still. And I get it. And he texted me, it was fun. It's like a joking jest, kind of a little bit of a trolling thing. But
sure, the
funny thing to me is, in my mind, and I mean this is not like cliche. Like, I am not training for men's league lacrosse anymore because this might sound shitty. Like, I'm done with trying to excel in men's league lacrosse. I already did it. Like, I could score 5 goals a game. It doesn't matter to me. I'm training to go dominate life. Like, my focus now in training has nothing to do with athletics. It's life. Like, I want to feel strong for my day to day. And more importantly, I think you've experienced this over 17, 20 years of building Ranfone training systems. What you do as a leader or an example is not for you. It's actually for you in the end, right? You end up benefiting from all of it. But I think it's to show people the accountability that you hold to their health care. So if I take care of myself better and I expose that I'm working out every day, I'm trying to eat, I don't care if you like my forearms or legs. That's not why I'm doing this. It really doesn't. I like how I feel and how I look. I'm doing it so that everybody knows the capabilities of what you can accomplish if you really prioritize something. How do we kind of blend the medical approach with the pure exercise nutrition? Because some people come in here and they're like, well, if I go to my regular doctor, they put me on meds to start for blood pressure and blah, 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 blah. And I'm coming here and I'm starting some meds too. Like, what's the difference? And I think the difference is the bioidentical aspect to it, and then the exercise and nutrition being prescribed all at once. Do you have any comments? And can you explain how that mental dynamic should adjust? Because instead of being pinned to a medicine for life, you're pinned to exercise, nutrition, and metabolic wellness. But that philosophy sometimes in the medical world, as we've been presented to us recently, feel like then you're dependent on a pharmaceutical. How do we adjust that perspective?
Much of how people perceive life is through the lens of an event. You know, like, think about someone who struggles with finances and they're thinking, well, if I could just win lottery,
yeah,
everything's going to be fine. The problem with this is that we actually have proof that if you don't have the ability to manage money, getting a ton of money doesn't fix it.
Ruins it.
Right? Most people who win the lottery go bankrupt or die within 5-10 years.
80%.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? So the event of taking a medication, getting prescribed testosterone, taking a statin, whatever, isn't going to be the end all be all.
Right.
It's the process that lives behind. So instead of viewing life through these series of events, when it maybe is 1% of your entire life events, and 99% is in a process.
Right.
What is your process? Because maybe the process, if you focus on that, gets you to an event that is something that's really worthwhile.
Yeah.
And like we are espousing the benefits of like coming to the gym and doing the things and counting the calories and all this stuff and having a like great relationship with your kids and your wife. Like, those are all things that have to happen daily, not in a day,
right? Not
in a year,
yep.
Every freaking day. And I think that's just the hard part for people to actually wrap their head around.
And it's an interesting thing about the process result thing, because when you look at humans in the environment that we're in right now, true health-driven prioritization of health, it's actually purely process.
Yeah.
because the result is death, no matter what. Right? Like
that's the event.
That's the event.
Everyone gets to.
No matter what right now, right? There's no immortal. So at the end of the day, like if you don't love the process, yeah, you have a hard time with life. Anxiety, depression, suicide, right? Or you go murder or harm other people because you really don't value yourself and you don't really like the process because you just want the result. Now, I have a big problem. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. I can't get enough of the process. Meaning, like, even during lacrosse, I remember the final game of the year that you work to get to, and then, like, it was annoying that I didn't get to go to practice on Monday. Like, I remember being like, the season's over. I don't have practice Monday. Like, that stunk to me. Yeah. I didn't even care about the games. I remember I used to love just going to practice. Like, that end of things was a lot of fun for me. So I think that mentality of like being attached to the process rather than the things associated with doing the process, we got to change that mentality because part of life process, I do believe we have to force humans into deal with it. Exercise, nutrition, and metabolic wellness is how you will have better quality. Now, if we want better quality, people say, oh, well, what are you getting healthy for? Well, do healthy people go out and stab people? No. Shoot people? No. Commit crimes? You know, all of these bad things we're seeing in society, I think are very driven by baseline health. Trends in health are always like fad-ish, kind of. You know, you had keto diet, you got carnivore, blah, blah, blah. I guess Marcus brought up, there's an online fad trend, I guess on TikTok, where it's just kids ripping peptides and just injecting piles of peptides. And marketing it as if like the more peptides you do, the better you are, I'm assuming. How do we expose that as a bad practice, but not expose peptides as bad, right? Because there's really good uses for many of them, and there's really bad ones. And when misused, they could all be dangerous. But because the gym kind of was the start of all of that with supplementation. And remember, there was always creatine was the first one, which now we know is the best stuff on the planet. But then all these stimulators. How did you see that morph? And what do you think this is going to turn into? Because now it's like you order it online like it's water. So how do we discern for the consumer of the gym healthcare environment that using these things can be good as an additive, but not just as like the base staple of what you're going to do for foundational health?
Yeah, history tends to repeat itself. So 30 years ago, you and I entering college, we went through this supplement boom where, you know, GNC became a vitamin shop, became Supplement City, became an e-commerce booming business. And it was all these products that were highly unregulated and still to this day are highly unregulated by the FDA. But a lot of those supplements had false claims. No one could prove it. No one could back it up. But you always heard someone who had these great effects, right? Oh, I took this X supplement and I put 10 pounds on and blah, blah, blah. And that's because everyone perceives it as magic because they don't know how shit works.
Right.
So now you fast forward 30 years and here we are talking about the same thing. Like if we took out, BPC 157 and inserted creatine, that was the conversation.
Right.
And that's why there's some merit to these things. Some of it is unknown.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is unregulated.
Right.
Right. And that's probably the biggest concern that I have is people are buying stuff online from God knows where.
Right.
How they were made, how they were manufactured with no regulation. So just that alone is concerning to me. And then it's under the idea that it will fix everything. When even the best supplement, even the best peptide, even the best hormone, if you're not training correctly, if you're not eating correctly, if you're not managing your stress, you're not sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night, you're not drinking water, none of it matters. Right. It is literally a Band-Aid. And that's why, again, it goes back to this idea is like, if I just do this one thing, everything gets fixed. It's like, but you have 25 things that are deficient.
Doctors know it better than anybody, I think. When you enter medical school and then you become a resident and attending, the one thing you focus on is work. That's it. So your priority becomes just one thing and you lose everything else, right? So it takes everything. So like if the peptide was the work and you only focus on the peptide, but you don't eat well, you don't move, you're not cognizant of the rest of your world, well, yeah, it's going to backfire. Craziest thing I always hear, and please as a consumer, you have to listen to this carefully. If Michael Ranfone orders a medication or gets a medication from a doctor, and I get the same medication. There is no laterality on me saying, well, he's on 50 units or 30 units, because here's the difference. In peptide world, there are milligram doses, there's unit volumes, and neither of them match up. And to the consumer, you have no idea what you're doing when you buy it. The more you inject or the less you inject means nothing except quantity to you. So be very careful in comparison back and forth. Just like in gym world, how long do you guys ever deal with people being like, oh, so-and-so's on that supplement and so-and-so's take that protein. Should I be on that? Should I be taking that? How do we blend through that as well? Because I'm getting that constantly now, right? Like I have people come in and be like, well, my buddy's on A, B, and C. Why aren't I on it? And I'm always like, well, because you don't need that, right? And I end up bad businessing a lot of times because business is about volume and income, and I end up pushing people away from purchasing more because sometimes it's stuff you don't need. And online, that's really, really scary. There's good, bad, and there are ugly peptides. I think the GLP-1s are now just probably the biggest topic in the country in current events. How much are you seeing it in terms of gym use and the help it's giving you in terms of training, exercise, and the results throughout the process of maybe blending all of this metabolic medicine together?
It's definitely becoming more prevalent in those initial conversations that we have with clients. And I'll be honest, I'm actually a big fan of that person or that prospect bringing the topic up.
Yeah.
Because we can get to it. Like we can have a very pointed conversation about an overall strategy, and that might be one tactic we might want to look for.
Yeah.
Employing that as part of this other suite of services that we offer. And again, it just goes back to, it's probably not one thing. I can't remember any time where one singular input changed everything for someone.
Right.
I will say that it depends what you're evaluating success on, because it's easy to say, well, I got on a GLP-1 and I lost weight. And then you can follow up with that. Well, how much was it muscle?
Right.
What did you change? Did you still have a shitty diet? You just ate less shit? Because that's what most people do
all the time.
And they don't realize that you're still devoid of micronutrient profile. Yep. You still aren't fueling your body correctly.
Yep.
You still kind of feel like shit. You're just a smaller version of what you once were.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and then long term, by doing that, chasing a single number through a single input, does that put you in a worse position later on to be healthy, to perform at a top level, to be whatever you want to be? Is it just a kind of misconstruing the data?
And the weight thing was half medical world's fault, because weight became an issue of tracking, right? So as a kid in pediatrics, you're like, track their weight. So you put a baby on a scale and you're like, oh, they're in the 80th percentile and they're X percentile of height. And then all of a sudden that kind of disappears. Like you go to the doctor and they're like, oh, you're overweight. They don't tell you you're in the 1 percentile of gross, or like you're perfectly lean. Like start holding people accountable a little bit, right?
Parents.
Yeah. And then the weight thing actually doesn't become an issue, right? Like if you actually understand how to effectively change your weight, the weight doesn't matter. Like right now, if I go out to dinner and somebody's like, you eat pizza, I'm like, yeah, because I have full control over my diet throughout the week. Full control. And on the weekend, if you see me gorging on an ice cream cake, guess what? I have stockpiled enough in reserve that, yeah, I have the ice cream cake on Saturday. And then I burn more, right? So the weight thing becomes nothing once you develop the ability to control it. You know more than anybody. But I think the GLP-1s are the most incredible current source of help in controlling that.
Yeah.
It's almost like in business world, in my mind, it's almost like your executive assistant for metabolic help.
Yeah.
Oh, Mikey, you're feeling a little bit hungry today. Let's quiet that down a touch. Like it's that straightforward. And I think for the users that get that want to thrive in health, not just purely weight-based changes, benefit from it a huge amount. So I'd like to talk about the benefits, because a lot of people are thrown off by all these studies that it like eats your bones, you lose muscle. It only does that if you do not understand how to use them. Kind of like a gun, I believe. right? You can shoot a bird with a gun if you know how to do it the right way, and it will not misfire in your pocket and kill you, or you can take it and go shoot someone. So completely different uses of the same thing. A GLP-1 could kill somebody if they overdose it and they don't eat their carbs and they don't eat for 3 days and they don't know what they're doing with hydration, salt intake, or anything related to metabolism. But in a user who knows what they're doing, who's been coached the right way to make sure that they get all of their carbs, get all of their protein, get their sleep, use the proper dosing where the drive to eat is quenched a touch, but you still can consume the calories you need to survive for the day, well, those results are significantly different. How do we also explain that? Because in training world, it's like HIIT versus resistance, and some blend of it is better. Like, how do we teach people this is all medicine, right? It's not just because it's a chemical. It's actually, this is medicine too. It releases dopamine and adrenaline. And so it's all working metabolically. And I think we just need to get people to understand that, to use it the right way. So maybe in training context, how do we draw that parallel so the user becomes more used to appreciating the fact that there are helpers to what they're doing. It's not a crutch and it's not a solution.
Yeah. I think you already said it, but if we looked at all these peptides, whether it be a GLP-1 or a TB500 or whatever, can we just perceive them as amplifiers of what you're doing? So again, getting back to a process, if we can expedite the process, if we can amplify the process, if we can make it more effective or more efficient by using these things, then 100% yes.
Yeah.
If we're using them to substitute the process, we're already at a big disadvantage.
Huge state. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll start with saying, like, all right, if we were to employ a GLP-1,
yep,
and they're eating McDonald's 4 or 5 times a day, and then they eat 2-3 times a day at McDonald's, that there is a big win there.
Yeah.
However, it's going to be short-lived because, again, we're only looking at weight maybe being the deciding factor of success.
Right.
And I think it is really a concern of mine not to teach this person how to fish at some point, right? Like, we just keep giving them a fish, but we don't teach them how to fish. So once any of that goes away, they are in a far worse position to navigate their life, to pursue health, and whatever else they want to do. And I think that's really the big concern when it comes to using these things, is that we're not looking at the end user from a long-term perspective or on a longer time horizon. What happens when this stuff goes away?
Yes.
Right? And then we can honestly say, well, then the process wasn't good, and now we have a worse event to deal with.
Yep.
So setting them up in a position of long-term success is always going to be something that we consider. The other thing that I think about is everyone believes, and this is where the end user and the education for the end user is important. And I forgot who said it, but when people don't know how things work, but believe they can work, that's just magic. It's just magic.
Yeah.
You know, like when you see a magician do his thing and you're like, that is that magic?
Right.
And then they show you the behind the scenes, they hid this thing. It's like, that's how these compounds are being presented. That they're magic.
Right.
They'll fix everything. They'll cure, and they are so powerful, and we're not even giving them the chance to be as powerful as they can be unless we support that with knowledge and skills and abilities.
Right. And the craziest part about it is it's an amazing group of medicine that could really, really, really enhance people's life experience. And the benefits of it, it's hard not to use logic. Right? So if you can use your carbohydrates better as fuel and you build more muscle and burn more fat, that's a tough thing to argue with. Even if the risk of that against a completely perfectly healthy person, yes, might be higher risk. Against somebody who's doing it perfectly without that, fine. But most of the people taking a GLP-1 or trying to enhance their metabolism have a really bad metabolism.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't know if we were built to work in a chair in a closed building all day. So maybe the evolution of our metabolic system hasn't adjusted to how fast we've started using all this crap technology that we really don't need, but I'm forced to pay for this cable I now have to do it. But maybe we're not meant to be inside. So this metabolic enhancement was part of our evolutionary tail, but now we have to use it from an external source because we weren't given enough time to adapt.
Yeah, and not to mention the food environment.
Caloric excess. And you say it all the time, like we were not built to be in an environment where there's just calories flying at us. We're built to burn. Like to go get food, you should have to try to get it, which takes caloric intake to burn. Now you just get in a car, it gets delivered to your house. So I think the GLP-1s, the risks of them, in my mind, are zero to society. We have an overweight, chronically sick society that's under-muscled and over-fat, right? So like, how do you argue that any risk factors exist if you change that? There's really none. How do you prepare somebody to enter into the process of a GLP-1 where appetite gets a little suppressed, they're on the floor training, they now say, I'm getting weaker. Where do we come into that? Because that's going to be the first big problem. And I think that's the first plateau to make people realize, all right, that doesn't really matter at that point in time. But how do we explain that to people? Because it's purely a fuel issue.
Yeah, totally. And if they don't understand that, and this is where it's really important to have like qualifiers in place to actually administer some of these compounds. So if someone was, say, training for a long period of time and they got in a good routine, blah, 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 and then they started to implement a GLP-1 and then they noticed some negative effects, which that's part of it too. Like side effects are part of the process, right? And mitigating those to make sure that the effect from that specific compound or treatment is maximized is also something that the trainers and nutritionists have to work alongside. So hopefully we've done our due diligence by preparing that individual like, hey, when we reduce calories with or without a GLP-1, you're going to have a difference in energy in and energy out. And that might be felt subjectively.
Yeah.
And then maybe objectively with, let's say, you can't bench as much or your run times go down. That is merely a side effect of maybe not having enough calories to do the work or to recover from said work, right? And that's it. So what we should do as educated coaches and nutritionists is to tailor programming so that those effects aren't necessarily felt and maybe shift them into a mode of programming and training that is going to be more conducive. Because remember, it's got to be like we're only doing this thing to get the effect. So maybe that means the training that we were once using is now inefficient, ineffective. So we have to then change the direction of that training program to be as supportive in nature to the GLP-1 to get the outcome that we want.
And this is part of the incredible thing I think we're doing here. Because if you are a consumer at home and you order GLP-1 online and you don't know any of this and you don't know how many carbs you're eating and you don't know how much protein you're eating, you have no idea of your caloric intake, you have no idea your muscle mass, fat mass, and you just start injecting a medicine, sitting on a couch and not knowing your energy expenditure or intake, like it gets really weird and difficult. And then you ruin it for the rest of us because there are the people that use it the right way. And when used the right way with the advice of people guiding you through the experience, I believe if we make gastric bypass surgery legal, then it should be GLP-1 city all day. Because if it's reasonable risk factor to put somebody under general anesthesia, so you knock them out with a chemical that makes their brain delete all memory, not feel their body, you put them in a cold operating room under lights, you cut them wide open, you cut their stomach out, rearrange their intestines, give them nutritional deficiencies by design of their anatomy. So you reroute their anatomy so they do not absorb the same. That's not good. And we're worried about GLP-1s and nutritional status. Like you just rerouted somebody's guts on purpose, right? And we think that's reasonable. What is the risk factor of surgery? We have normalized that going to a hospital and be given a drug to go to sleep while somebody cuts stuff out of you is normal. We've normalized that. That's not normal. When you watch a commercial for Hartford Healthcare or Yale New Haven Hospital or Maimonides or whatever, that should be the scariest place on earth. It should be friendly if you have to go there, but you should never want to go. It should look like the gates of hell to you. I mean it. Because you go to the hospital to get cut up, put on medicine forever or die. There's three things you go to the hospital for, right? Because if you go to the hospital for an elective surgery, that's still one step closer to some bad thing happening. So we want to avoid that at all costs, I believe. And I think the way to do that is, like you just said, you have to appreciate the fact that it is a full spectrum healthcare system right now. Healthcare as we're inventing it currently doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Because it exists only in the arena where you just exposed it. Exercise, nutrition, and a doctor. And we sit in a room and actually we argue about medicine all the time in healthcare and how to process this the best way and how to deliver it the right way. Why? Because we actually give a shit about people's health. And it racks our brain on a 24-hour-a-day basis. But the only way to do that is to incorporate all of this. Dependence on a pharmaceutical to stop a pathology is very different than using a chemical to help you avoid pathology. At root base, nutrition is the most medicinal thing on the planet. How do we expose that now as prescriptive? Because you have seen firsthand the devastating effects of bad nutrition, right?
100%.
Like directly, people walk in here, can't move, can't walk, can't bend over. Like, how do we get people to actually realize that like nutrition is the medicine?
All right. So, I mean, RTS Health has been really in existence for 2 years with the medical side of things. RTS has been around for 21 years.
Yeah.
So I could look back at that first 2 decades and say, remember when that person was morbidly obese? Remember when that person had type 2 diabetes?
Yep.
Remember when that person had sleep apnea? And like I didn't have you. I didn't have access to someone like you.
Right.
Half of these compounds we're talking about weren't in existence 5 years ago.
No.
And we still managed to do it.
Help people.
It was just a lot harder to do that.
Yeah.
And it was a lot harder for the end user to accomplish it. And I'd like to think that now that we do have more tools in the tool belt to satisfy the same demand and same needs, we're so much more better equipped.
Yep.
To your question, it's more along the lines of like, we were able to accomplish a lot. And that was one of the reasons we weren't satisfied with what we were doing.
Right.
It wasn't even the end user at that point. It was the business.
Yeah,
and then you became part of it. You experienced it.
Yep.
You wanted to change professions because of it, because you saw this as the better way.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like, I don't think it's just the guys in the room and the guys in the gym and the guys at RTS Health.
No.
It was like, there is more and more people asking for this.
Yeah.
Because I think they're starting to catch up with like, you know what? I'm going to call bullshit on that pharmacology.
Yeah.
I'm going to call bullshit on that medical procedure. And they're going to look for alternatives. And that's where like, we're not creating the external demand. We're channeling it. There is definitely a movement out there that people want to get out of healthcare, want to get out of institutionalized medicine.
Yep.
They just don't know where to go. And that's why you see people probably buying shit online and trying all this stuff, because there isn't a dedicated source or maybe a resource that they truly believe in just yet. And we're trying to change that.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I still get a lot of comments like, wait, so you're still like a doctor? And the funny thing is, with a license to cut somebody open in a hospital, that's normal. Back to that statement, right? Like, you need a surgery, let me bring you in and cut you up. That's a normal like medical experience. But to go in the back of a gym and meet with a doctor about nutrition, exercise, and hormonal balance is fucking voodoo. Like, I cannot get over it. I really can't. So I can put on a gown, a mask, put bright lights in your face, take a knife and some serious sedative drugs and hallucinogenics and fucking amazing psychedelics, knock your ass out and just cut you open. Replace parts of your body with metal, and that's totally normal with 10 people in an OR that you've never met, 3 of which are hungover, 2 of which have a bad smoking problem, 1 of which hates their kids and their life, fucking has no interest in you in the hospital, and that's normal. But it's voodoo to go sit in the back of a gym with somebody who can't stand not helping people get healthy, with somebody who's built a business on exercise nutrition, curing pathologies with natural remedy, which is exercise nutrition and the healthcare we provide here. And this is the voodoo stuff. It's so odd to me. And the hard part for me is people then clump us in with the internet peptide craze and the GLP-1, and we're not. It's a real doctor's office. Now you walk into a Hartford Healthcare, Yale, New Haven Hospital, whatever our local places are, and one of their doctors says, take a GLP-1. It's always like, oh, great. That's perfect. The doctor told me to take it, right? You walk in here and I'm like, hey, you got to start pounding carbs, right? You have to double your carbs, double them. And I'm not giving you the GLP-1 ever in a prescription until you prove to me that you can eat more. And if you don't prove to me you can eat more and you consume more protein, you're not going to exercise, have a good day. Because at the end of the day, we got to do the right thing. If you didn't listen to this whole clip, please listen to the whole pod. Because at the end of the day, that's the reality of it, right? And you've been fighting that forever. Where do you think the next phase of this goes, right? Like, we're going to end up with a lot of skinny fat. So it's going to be, right? And I don't really know where the end result, unfortunately, of the diabetes thing is going to go, because I see a lot of people losing weight, but I do see the non-medically guided GLP-1 users losing a lot of muscle too. Now, I have 0 people that lose muscle. There's 0. It just doesn't happen unless we want it to happen, like overall weight down, fine. But in their world, you lose muscle, you can actually make it worse. So we're kind of in this like battle that it's really good, but then it's this battle that overuse could be bad. What do you think the happy medium is? Like, it's got to be regulated in healthcare facilities like this, because the rest of the world really doesn't want to.
Specifically with peptide stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there has to be some oversight. Like, to me, it's unbelievable that you can put out something that's, like, in its truest form, very powerful.
Yeah.
And with that power becomes the downside, like misuse.
Yep.
And then on the horrible side, it's people that are selling it and it's not it.
Yeah.
Who knows what they're getting?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, people are injecting. I mean, it's actually mind-boggling to me that I would go buy, trust that person is giving me what they say they're going to give me,
right?
And it's known, it's unregulated, not for human use, research purposes only, and they'll buy it and then put it in their bodies,
yeah,
but without even checking
from a non-medical provider,
100%. So,
Amazon.
So to me, I think there has to be some kind of intervention at the federal level to say, "What? That's not good."
Yeah, I also think it's
and
weird.
I'm not for overregulation. I'm just saying, like, are we going to wait until a lot of people get sick and die?
Yeah, here's my other question for you. If I, in my house, was just a resource center for cocaine trade in North America. So I didn't touch the cocaine. I didn't know it was there. It just went into my house, and then somebody came and took it out and got moved. And all I did was the processing and servicing, and I made a couple % off that trade. But I didn't touch any cocaine. How do the owners of the fucking internet, whoever we get billed for our websites for, how are they not responsible for this shit?
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. Like the pedophilia shit, if you're part of the dark web and you allow that to go through your fucking IP address, like, God bless your soul, but you should die too. I don't get it. So how do these peptide things happen with just no regulation? Like, I'm telling you right now, if I was the internet, say I'm the equivalent of the internet and I'm a doctor here, and a medical distributor comes into my office and gives me something that's crap, I'm going to say no, and I'm not going to let it get to my consumer because I actually am here for them. How does the internet owner, it's somebody owns these fucking bandwidth, how do they let that happen? Like, when is their responsibility to transition of information? Like, they're all protected, clearly paid off, like pharma companies or whatever, but at some point I think the regulation has to also come from, like, humanity.
I mean, a common theme is always like, all right, now that this bad thing happened, let's get involved. So, like,
not preventative.
Your PCP says, oh yeah, you're within range. Oh yeah, you're within range. Decade and decade. Take this pill. And then I was like, oh, you know what? You're probably going to need open heart surgery.
Right.
You know, the FDA with supplements. Not bad. We don't really know what's in it. Someone gets sick. Someone dies. Oh, let's investigate that supplement.
Right.
And then we'll ban it. It's like there's no semblance of, like, proactive measures put in place for any of these things, but we know it can't be good. Like, imagine if alcohol and tobacco was unregulated.
Right.
What are we talking about?
Insanity.
But a pharmacological intervention can just be sold freely anywhere. It makes no sense.
It really doesn't. I think at the end of the day, our entire mission and brand appropriation, I think, is towards health, whatever that means, right? If it means,
I would even step back. It's just like the mindset of, like, can we intelligently question what's being offered to us?
Yes.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, question your healthcare, question the fitness, question
Yeah.
your lifestyle, like ask good questions.
So it's pretty funny. I had an experience. Somebody sat in my office and was like, why should I pay you out of pocket? I already have health insurance. All right.
Whoa.
Stick with me on this. Imagine how insane the conversation in somebody's brain has to be with themselves to say that out loud. So they're willing to pay somebody that I don't know, a health insurance company that provides them zero. They see them for 12 minutes a year, lots and lots of money, and they don't really say a thing. They're just like, okay, that's reasonable. They're getting nothing for that payment. 4 to 5 hours a year sitting in front of me, and they're concerned with what they're paying for. It's a very odd mental trick that the healthcare community has played on the consumer. It's an obvious mind game. Like, they force you to buy health insurance. They give you nothing for it.
Well, this is analogous. This was like 10 years ago, or maybe 8 years ago. Then I think New York Times came out with the article, the high cost of low price fitness centers.
Yeah.
So their whole hypothesis was, what happens when you only pay $10 a month, but you never go? So you just keep getting dinged with this almost nominal fee. Like, you don't really know, but the cost of it is your health.
Yeah.
Is your potential.
Negative.
Is the future version of you. That's the cost. So you can look at it the same way. It's like they don't mind just let you paying the bill, do minimal to get you in and get you involved and ask you or have you ask questions. Did you pay the bill?
Yeah.
And when you don't pay the bill, like Planet Fitness, not to name names, they will reach out when your credit card gets declined.
And the craziest part is,
not that you didn't go.
Yep.
But like,
they're also playing on the fact that they know what you want to hear. If you walk in looking for an answer that you want to hear, you're not really like an exercise enthusiast. You want to be placated by being told you're doing a good job. You go into a box gym, you sign up, it's $9.99 a month, and they say, listen, we don't make it too expensive because, like, if you get here once a week, wonderful. And, like, if you don't really come,
totally worth it.
Don't worry about it. It's totally worth it.
Pizza's on Friday.
Yeah, you won't be wasting any money if you don't get here every day, but at least you're putting in some effort, right? Bang. Nailed it. It's the best marketing pitch ever, and we all fell for it. I mean, I went to the $9.99 too, and I was not healthy. I think at the end of the day, it's one of these things where I'm starting to get to the point, like, if health is not your priority, then it's not going to be my priority for you either. And I think we just make our circles tight enough that that's what it is. And somebody was like, yeah, your marketing's a little rough and you say some rough things. And I said, well, that's on purpose. Like, I'm building a team that I want around me. I'm not building a team that I don't want around me. And does that sound selfish? Fine, as a medical provider, but that's why I left the hospital, because I'm sick of dealing with people that don't want to be accountable to their own healthcare. You've experienced it forever, no?
One of the first things I kind of recognize as a coach with athletes was I used to say, it's like, I can't want this more than you.
Yeah.
The one thing that you need is the thing that I can't give you. Yep. Right? And that's now kind of the battle cry of the people we work with now. It's just a different avatar.
Yeah.
But fast forward 20 years, it probably was the same kid I talked to, but he's a grown-ass man who's got 2 kids, he's overweight, hates his job, and drinks too much.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But there is a way to get better. And I think everything that we do is in this with this intent of educating people.
Yeah.
And let me be clear, I'm not trying to give anyone the answer.
No.
I'm trying to give you enough information to ask the better question.
Yep.
And hopefully I can answer that one. That's it.
And ask yourself the question, right? You got to look at yourself in the mirror, not me. Aggressively Healthy, if you want to track us around, what do we got? RTS Health _ CT. Instagram handle.
We got a lot of big things coming. So
so the Instagram handle used to be Ranfone Performance.
That was another. Ranfone Training was our main account.
Yes, now that's going to be RTS Health _ CT.
Yep.
We have Lujic _ RTS Health MD. That'll be my words and talking head. Michael Ranfone will still support his talking head. So you get exercise nutrition education, metabolic health nutrition, and our whole goal as an RTS Health entity is you come in and it's one-stop shop. Healthcare, nutrition, exercise, supplements, vitamins. You don't have to worry about a thing, and all we want to do is help you get healthy. Stick with it, stay aggressively healthy, and if you have any questions, reach out. God bless.